At 72, Pierce Brosnan remains one of cinema's most recognizable figures, a man whose calm presence and refined confidence have defined generations of filmgoers. To the public, he will always be remembered as James Bond, the composed, unshakable hero who walked away from danger without visible scars. Yet behind that polished image exists a life shaped not by fantasy or scripted triumph, but by deeply human endurance. Brosnan's story is not one of effortless success, but of quiet strength developed through loss, patience, and reflection. While audiences admired his charm and composure, few saw the resilience required to carry personal pain without allowing it to harden him. His life reveals a truth often hidden behind fame, that real courage is not loud or dramatic, but lived daily in moments of restraint, grace, and emotional honesty. Brosnan's legacy rests not only on iconic roles, but on his ability to remain open to life despite its hardest lessons. Childhood marked by absence. Pierce Brosnan was born in Drogheda, Ireland in 1953 into circumstances that introduced him early to uncertainty and separation. His father left when Pierce was still an infant, leaving behind not conflict, but silence, an absence that shaped his understanding of relationships from the very beginning. His mother, determined to build a better future, moved to London for work when Pierce was just 4 years old, a decision that meant years apart. During her absence, he lived with relatives, shifting homes and routines, never fully settling. Though cared for, the lack of permanence left an imprint, teaching him that stability could not be assumed. These early years formed a quiet, observant child who learned self-reliance before he fully understood it. Rather than resentment, Pierce carried a cautious awareness of how fragile connection could be, a lesson that would follow him throughout his life. Learning what stability looks like. When Pierce's mother returned years later, she brought with her a renewed sense of family and a steady presence through her new husband, who became a grounding influence in Pierce's life. For the first time, consistency felt tangible rather than temporary. Simple routines, shared activities, and dependable care offered Pierce a new model of trust, one that didn't vanish unexpectedly. Around this time, a trip to the cinema introduced him to the James Bond films, where he saw not fantasy, but composure and control. Bond represented certainty in a world that had felt unpredictable. It wasn't fame that appealed to him, but the idea of inner steadiness, of standing firm regardless of circumstance. These experiences planted early seeds of aspiration, not toward celebrity, but toward self-possession. Pierce began to understand that strength wasn't about dominance, but about presence, calm, and reliability in the face of uncertainty. Discovering a creative direction. As a teenager, Pierce moved to London to study art, believing painting would offer a meaningful way to express what he often kept inward. Life there was modest and demanding, requiring discipline and persistence rather than comfort. Acting entered his life almost accidentally, sparked by curiosity during a visit to a small theater workshop. What began as a moment of experimentation revealed something deeper, an ability to command attention without force, to communicate emotion through stillness as much as movement. Encouraged by mentors, Pierce pursued formal training at the Drama Centre London, an environment known for its intensity and high expectations. The experience was rigorous, but it suited someone already accustomed to endurance. Acting became not just a profession, but a method of understanding human behavior, emotion, and restraint. It offered him a structured way to transform personal experience into something purposeful and shared. Early work and patient growth. Pierce's early career unfolded quietly, shaped by theater work and modest screen roles that demanded precision rather than visibility. These performances were not shortcuts to recognition, but lessons in patience and consistency. He learned how to hold space, how to listen on stage, and how to let emotion emerge naturally rather than theatrically. Each role, no matter how small, contributed to a deeper understanding of craft and discipline. Rather than rushing toward attention, Pierce focused on refinement, knowing that longevity required substance. He worked alongside experienced performers, observing more than speaking, absorbing more than projecting. This period of slow growth mirrored the rhythm of his personal life, steady, deliberate, and grounded. The absence of instant success did not discourage him. Instead, it reinforced a belief he had carried since childhood, that meaningful progress is built quietly, through persistence rather than spectacle. Recognition through Remington Steele. Everything changed in the early 1980s when Pierce was cast in the television series Remington Steele. Originally considered for a smaller role, his presence reshaped the show's direction, placing him at its center. The series brought international recognition and introduced audiences to his effortless charm and intelligence. With success came new expectations, including early speculation about his suitability for James Bond. Yet, timing and contractual limitations delayed that possibility, forcing Pierce to practice patience once again. Rather than frustration, he treated the delay as preparation, continuing to refine his skills while navigating public attention for the first time. Remington Steele did more than launch his career. It tested his ability to remain grounded under sudden visibility. He learned that recognition could arrive quickly, but sustaining integrity required balance, humility, and emotional restraint, qualities he had been developing long before fame found him. Becoming James Bond. When Pierce finally stepped into the role of James Bond in the mid-1990s, it felt less like a breakthrough and more like a culmination. Years of preparation, disappointment, and discipline had shaped him into someone capable of carrying the weight of expectation. His portrayal blended modern sensitivity with classic confidence, redefining the character for a new generation. The success was immediate and global, placing him firmly among cinema's most iconic figures. Yet behind the elegance and action was a demanding reality: long schedules, constant scrutiny, and the pressure of public identity. Pierce navigated it with the same composure he had cultivated throughout his life, understanding that image and reality often diverge. Bond did not define him. Rather, it reflected qualities he already possessed. The role became a chapter, not a destination, in a life shaped by endurance rather than illusion. Love, loss, and private strength. Away from the spotlight, Pierce's personal life demanded a different kind of courage. He experienced profound loss that reshaped his understanding of love, family, and time. Through these experiences, he chose presence over withdrawal, remaining engaged with those closest to him despite emotional weight. Grief did not harden him. Instead, it deepened his empathy and quiet strength. As a father and partner, he embraced responsibility not as obligation, but as devotion. Rather than retreating into privacy or performance, Pierce allowed life to remain textured, holding joy and sorrow side by side. These experiences altered his priorities, shifting focus from achievement to connection. Success became less about recognition and more about meaning. The resilience he displayed was not performative, but deeply human, built on acceptance rather than resistance, and guided by an understanding that love remains valuable even when it carries pain. A legacy beyond the screen. Today, Pierce Brosnan lives with intention, choosing simplicity, creativity, and connection over excess. Art, family, and advocacy now define his days more than premieres or accolades. His legacy is not confined to film history, but rooted in the example he sets through quiet consistency and emotional honesty. He represents a form of masculinity grounded in empathy rather than dominance, strength defined by endurance rather than control. Brosnan's story reminds us that a meaningful life is not one without loss, but one that continues to open itself despite it. His journey speaks to anyone who has faced uncertainty and chosen to move forward with grace. In remaining present, creative, and loving, Pierce Brosnan offers something far more enduring than any role: a portrait of a life lived with dignity, depth, and unwavering humanity.